Hello? Can anybody hear me? I'm getting a message in OBS that says the audio stream's current bitrate is lower than the recommended bitrate. It says my bitrate is 0, which is not ideal. It sounds fine. Nice. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, we're scuffed as always. The stream's been a rough thing a little bit lately, but currently I have no dropped frames, so that's fantastic. That's like the main stress. But yeah, we're celebrating 1,000 subscribers. I mean, boy, I don't think I really ever thought we were gonna get here, to be honest. I mean, I've been doing this for over 3 years at this point, learning it from square one, and like it is a lot of work to make these videos, and let alone learning how to make the videos, which is the craziest part. But here we are. We did it. Yeah, me plus computers is cursed, Colin. That is, I've been having the bad computer luck lately. But yeah, we're here, 1,000 subscribers, and I mean, I'm just really happy. I can give you guys ads now. And PK Buggy's in the chat. He's a friend that I've made through the One Piece community. We did a video together covering Thriller Bark. We tried to do a live stream, but yeah, technical issues limited that quite a bit. But PK also hit 1,000 subscribers really recently. When I first reached out to PK, he was slightly below me in the subscriber count, but I knew he was going to be somebody that, you know, inevitably also gets to 1,000 sooner than later. And congrats to you too, PK. I'm excited. PK should be working on a new video and stuff. I think you're doing a bi-weekly upload now. So excited to see what your next thing is. If you haven't checked out the PK video about Thriller Bark, go check it out. If you like long content, like second monitor stuff, I think it's pretty perfect. uh, but we're going to do something together, I think, in the future. Abe, nice seeing you in the chat. Thank you. I think PK is doing every other week. I'm not brave enough to commit to an upload schedule. New one coming this weekend. Exciting. I'm gonna see if I can get some music up. PK, I gotta ask, like, for your files that you make, that you use to make videos, are you organized? Because being organized with all this stuff is crazy. It is crazy to try to be on top of it. Ew. Little loud. Maybe something like that. How's that music sound? Is it too loud? Not quite loud enough? Whoa, loud music. Please tell me it's getting better. Okay, I'm hoping that's good. Let me know if the music is good now. And I do not put this on the screen, so we're going to go like that. don't know why I have OBS on the monitor that's slightly further away from me. It's very silly. Very silly. Alright, so now that I'm at 1,000 subscribers, you know, we've done it. Like, what's next? Right? What is next? I think 10,000 should be the next big goal. Now, who knows how long that'll take. Hopefully not 3 years. I think it'll be faster. Alright. You playing the recompiled version of the Majora's Mask PC port? That sounds so nice. New chapter will be like, I am Loki of Elbaf, and I am burdened with glorious purpose. Yeah, I definitely think... I'm so curious to finally learn what's going on with Loki. Dude is a very interesting character that we know so little about. Oda has been really teasing us that information. Oh my gosh, yeah, the Elbaf nightmares. That's gonna be crazy. This happens all the time in One Piece, but I am just so shocked with what Oda does sometimes. I remember one of the times I was shocked the most was when the Five Elders did their stuff during the Egghead arc. That like blew my mind. I was like, okay, wow, there we go. Let's go. My super weird mug. My friend, my hero, my dad. Let me turn it this way. It's from my son. Sorry if that's weird for you. It has a chip in it, so it's kind of on its last legs. Oh my gosh, yeah. Nobody expected that. Amazing though. Like such a cool way to ramp it up and to bring them into the fray. Yeah. Well, I think I'll talk about some upcoming projects I have in my mind. I've saved some projects for when I became monetized because I didn't want to go too crazy with an idea I thought was good, and then like a video that I feel like I could getting to 1,000 subscribers. The best way to do it, and I think PK, you would agree with this, is to just make really solid, concise videos and just like kind of keep it going. Just crank them out, and eventually some of them will stick. Oh, Will, what is everybody getting from the Steam sale? Well, I got One Piece World Seeker. It's been on my wish list for a while. I'm pretty sure it is hot garbage. But I thought it would be funny to play. And maybe a video or a stream could be made out of it? I don't know. I don't know if anybody has any interest in that. Mr. Bushido, nice to see you in the stream. Thank you. Yeah, so I got One Piece World Seeker from the Steam sale. Is only like $8 or something, so I figured let's give it a shot. I hated One Piece Odyssey. It was so slow and so easy that I didn't really find it very fun. Oh my gosh, yeah. I feel like so I've been having this idea about a One Piece game. Because One Piece, like, battles, for example, revolve around these, like, complicated kind of, like, tactical fights where, like, the group splits up and goes one way. One person goes off and, you know, goes for one specific person, like Luffy's going after the big boss or whatever. A couple of the Straw Hats will team up and have, like, a team fight. Maybe they're trying to, like, stop, like, what would essentially be an objective from happening. Anyways, I feel like almost like the Fire Emblem format for a game would be a really good way to capture the kind of like battle portions of One Piece, the parts where chaos just breaks out. And then Fire Emblem also would kind of work well for the narrative part too, because the Fire Emblem games are a lot about like creating and building up these relationships and bonds with each other, and kind of getting buffs from that, and gaining new abilities and getting new items that would help them. Well, I need to look into Unicorn Overlord, because I know it's a JRPG and like a turn-based one, but I don't. Oh, it's similar to Fire Emblem, but more real-time. Real-time scares me. My brain doesn't work fast enough for real-time, but I'm sure I'd be fine. Yes, One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 is pretty fun. I have played around with that, and it was like, I don't know how long I played it for, maybe a couple hours, and I had a good time. But once I was done, I was kind of like, yeah, I'm done, you know. It pauses for casuals. That's funny. Yeah, so I think a Fire Emblem type of game would work really well. I think like the other types of games that would work well, like they ultimately would require such like a high budget and stuff that I feel like people wouldn't want to take the risk on it too much. A good solid One Piece fighting game like Dragon Ball FighterZ could be great too. Yeah, that would be awesome actually. I would probably No Life something like that. I don't think I talked to you about this, PK, but like my original like main hobby, after being an adult, would probably be like way too into Super Smash Bros. Melee. Like I was running tournaments in my college house, going to like the scary tournaments in people's basements where half the people smelled horrible. Driving to Vegas for big tournaments. I mean, I was pretty much terrible on the entire landscape. But like, I mean, I had so much fun with the community portion of it. I think part of me yearns for that type of game again, but I can't really find it. And I still play Melee every once in a while, but yeah. Y'all should play Are you talking about like me and Lauren? Yeah, that would be funny. I can't remember when I saw you playing at River. It kind of seemed like a first-person game, which doesn't work for Lauren because she gets motion sick so easy. Lauren was hilarious in the stream last night with Chained Together and stuff. She was having a little giggle attack. Alright, so for my upcoming videos and projects, and I'm curious if you guys have any particular desires of what sounds interesting to you. I'd love feedback, because when you're a small creator like me, you basically get almost no feedback that's like particularly useful with like what to make next, or like what to fix in a current project or stuff, unless you know other creators and you can like kind of collaborate a little bit with that portion. And that's, something I'm been working on, but, it's definitely from the ground up, and it's basically just PK, maybe my Discord, which if you're not in my Discord, join my Discord. It's probably, I'm pretty sure I left a link in the description for that. But yeah, feedback, tough. Okay, so videos that are coming up that I want to make, the big project that I want to make the most, but I kind of have to like work on it strategically because it's gonna take so much research and stuff, is I want to make a mostly complete lore video of One Piece, where I just like kind of break down and explain the lore as thoroughly as possible, and not like go too much into theories and stuff. And if I do go into theories at all, like it's like this theory has like a lot of evidence, and make it clear that it's like not fully true, but just really go through all the lore and hopefully kind of like connect things pretty well. And that video is mainly inspired by a Hollow Knight video about the mostly complete lore of Hollow Knight. And One Piece it will always be the mostly complete lore, because the reality is that Oda will never have enough time to fully close every piece of lore or any mysteries in One Piece. He won't be able to do it all, but he can get really far, right? But for some things, it's gonna be left up to the reader, and then we're also not gonna be getting a lot of our answers probably until very late in the story, and maybe even the last couple chapters of the entire thing. Yeah, Mr. Bushido, I remember you bringing that up about connecting me with other creators in your introduction on Discord, and maybe on a YouTube comment. Yeah, we could talk about that soon on Discord. I mean, I definitely want to grow my channel. That's for sure. But I'm not like trying to do things for money. I'm doing it for my own desires, right? So a really big lore video for One Piece, I'm imagining something like that's going to take a lot of research. The entire video is probably going to be like an hour and a half to 2 hours type of range. That's a project I want to make really bad. I just came up with an idea to do kind of with my wife, because she's kind of getting back into cooking. Like, we had a really big cooking phase, and we have a lot of cookbooks, but one of the cookbooks I have is the One Piece cookbook, which if you don't have, it's great. Like, it's a really well done cookbook, and it has pretty much every food to a certain point. I think like up until early Wano, that is in the manga and the anime. And the idea is this is going to be a long-term project. Like, this could not even possibly be done for at least 6 months, because I think it's like 40-something recipes, and I think it'd be fun to cook every food from the One Piece cookbook, try it, and like rank it. And I think that would be really cool. I don't know, does that sound like a cool video to you guys? I think it sounds cool. So it could kind of, if it doesn't fit the channel, I can always move it somewhere else. To growth with my friends. Yep. Yeah, I know. We're growing together, guys. I mean, everybody that was here, a lot of people were here when I had like 500 subscribers or something like that. Hopefully one day I'll have 10,000 subscribers or something. And, you know, I'll like remember, I think I really will remember a lot of the people that commented on my videos in these early days and showed up at the live streams. But, yeah. Oh, I have a fan letter video project that's actually almost done, but I'm not very happy with like my voiceover delivery or whatever I would say. So I think I'm going to re-record that. The kind of video portion of it is already done. So that is likely to be one of my next couple videos. I want to make a Blackbeard Explained, or like the real Marshall D. Teach video. That's also like, in terms of research, that's almost done. I've been thinking about like making a Shanks version of that as well. We'll kind of see how the Blackbeard one does. What do you think will happen in Elbaf? My theory is Zunisha and Carrot will arrive. My main theory in Elbaf is that the Atom Tree is gonna be burned down on purpose to deny the world. I mean, I think that's why the world government is mainly trying to annex Elbaf. That they want kind of like the natural resources of Elbaf. We've seen that they have like they could like draw a rainbow, for example. We've seen that they can that there's like some special properties with the climate. There's a lot of really weird stuff with Elbaf. And so I think that the world government doesn't necessarily want the people of Elbaf because they're not going to be able to like break their will enough in time for the upcoming like global war. So like to me, the only thing that they could want is like what's below or above the Atom Tree, or like the land itself. But I think a lot of it revolves around the Atom Tree, and I think in One Piece, it's a common theme to so that people keep living for like a future day, to be willing to destroy what is most important to you now if that means that it will defeat the enemy. That you could, so the world government, they won't even have to necessarily beat the world government if they are willing to basically destroy Elbaf. We already know the world is it seems like it's going to be functionally destroyed anyways, so the losses aren't too particularly crazy there. I'm so interested too about what is above the Sun World. What is that? Does anybody remember what the highest layer is called in Elbaf? But currently in Elbaf, with the whole kind of nightmare scenario, what I think will happen, that's tough. I mean, the thorn portion of it, they need to save the kids first, above the night, in priority above dealing with the nightmares. And it seems like if anybody touches them, they're going to be in an immense amount of pain. The next thought is that if you defeat the people who are using the abilities, then the abilities would likely turn off, right? So that'd be a common way, but they're kind of they're definitely on a clock, right? I can also see somebody like Luffy or somebody else grabbing the kids and kind of just taking on that pain and accepting it if that means that they will be saved. That's a pretty common theme in One Piece too, obviously. The Heaven Realm. Yeah, so I would imagine up in the Heaven Realm, I have no idea what's going to be up there. I mean, I would assume something like Odin or something, but I mean like Odin like O-D-I-N, not like Japanese soup. Angie, one of the teachers, touched one of the kids and nothing happened. I think she's in on this. I've seen a little bit of whispers of a theory about her being... I mean, it's mainly like a tinfoil hat level theory, right? Because there is pretty limited evidence for it. But it is interesting. I definitely think there is something like a conspiracy where there are traitors within Elbaf, and I think that's really backed up by the whole like Big Mom flashback, which was really weird, right? During Whole Cake Island, where we learned that Elbaf was willing to let the world government, or I don't think it was necessarily the world government, but they're willing to let like outsiders like open up a orphanage type of school there, and then it was secretly like a child like soldier training enslavement thing going on there. And yeah, that kind of opened up a whole can of worms for the dark side of Elbaf. And so then the question obviously becomes like, how much do certain people in Elbaf at that time, and who still exist in this current time, how much do they know about the whole like world government operation that was happening? Ja Rule and Harold could both be people that are in on that. One Piece has kind of gone more into the whole like... By the way, One Piece should definitely go... It just went more into like the magic portion of stuff too, so I'm kind of interested to learn about the... like how magic plays in. Like we see like those summoning circles. We've seen magic way back in like Miss Golden Week and stuff like that a long time ago in the story. I'm excited to see more about that as well. The Mishima Mindset. Heaven could be One Piece's version of Asgard, and the main area of Elbaf seems like Jotunhelm. Sorry if I'm butchering that completely. Because in Norse mythology, that's where giants come from. Giants typically also have powers over time. Yeah, that's really interesting. Giants being able to travel through time explains the Harley text. Yeah, that is really interesting. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that. I personally hope there isn't any sort of past time travel. PK, yeah, I kind of do agree with that, with the whole... I don't really desire a time skip, nor think there's going to be another time skip. But I'm okay if there is, and I'm okay if there's time travel too, I guess. Like, I just don't really prefer it, from my little, like, weak-minded self. Basically I'd say that I trust Oda to do things well. Right? Like, I really, really trust him to do Elbaf and just the end of One Piece justice in general. I've been thinking a lot, just generally, how insanely consistent One Piece has been for years now. Like, the average chapter or volume quality is just ridiculous. Like, I even recently reread the Onigashima raid, and that raid gets a lot of flack for being kind of a slog for week-to-week readers, but technically One Piece isn't really necessarily meant to be read purely week-to-week. Like, I highly recommend buying the new volumes in your country or language when they come out and reading them, because it's a different experience to read 8-10 chapters back to back than, you know, waiting each week and just kind of consuming YouTube videos and Reddit posts and Twitter feeds or whatever. Like, I just think that reading chunks at a time is kind of more of the intended way to read it. And anyways, the Onigashima raid, reading it in 8-10 chapter chunks was fantastic. It was consistently hilarious. The action was well paced and stuff. Things that people have talked about that, like, you're like, why is it Luffy got up to the roof, or like, what is it going to start? It didn't really feel slow or anything at all for me. That's just me. So anyways, One Piece is on like a crazy run of quality. Yeah, I think we all should trust Oda. He's earned our trust, right? And you know what? Either way, we have to live with it, right? I mean, this is ultimately his art, and I think he puts a lot of emphasis on making things like entertaining and good for us, the readers. But ultimately, like, it is his, and if you got a problem with that, like, make a YouTube video, like, make something in response instead of just pissing a complaint into a Twitter post. I don't think that's very cool. Ideally, One Piece would be serialized monthly. Yeah, I do really wish, like, we got a monthly serialization with like a 60-page chapter. That would be awesome. That would be so cool. That's how like JoJo's is now. The kind of JoJo's parts 1 through 6 was a shonen manga, and it was week to week. And boy, he was consistent getting week to week done. But the tone of JoJo's became more adult and serious over time. And by part 7 and 8 and now 9, it's moved to the seinen publication and has gone monthly. And it's kind of it's amazing. Things like Ragnarok were foretold by the giants through text and murals. That's cool. Yeah, I need to do another deep dive into Norse mythology. I had a video from a long time ago. I mean, this is probably back when I had 120 subscribers. It was about the video, or at least the thumbnail says Ragnarok, and it's something about like Shanks and Elbaf or something. I don't really remember exactly what the title is and stuff. it did fine for my channel back then. And a lot of the video was about how Shanks is kind of represented in Norse mythology for this god from the Aesir tribe named Tyr, who's a person that gets his arm bit off by a giant wolf. And Tyr kind of represents this figure of justice in Norse mythology, that he's kind of in between the two sides. And ultimately, Tyr is slain in battle during Ragnarok by his greatest rival, Fenrir, the one that bit off his arm. So at that time, I kind of like drew an association with Fenrir being similar to like a Cerberus and like the Blackbeard theory, because I think there's a lot of thematic setup for getting Shanks and Blackbeard together for a battle. Like, Shanks has been basically keeping his eye on Blackbeard since he was a kid, and has only been way more paying attention to Blackbeard since Blackbeard made his move at what is basically the beginning of the story. Probably almost at a very similar timing to when Luffy leaves his village in chapter 2. Or wait, chapter 1. He leaves at the end of chapter 1. And anyways. But now with the whole kind of reveal of Shamrock and stuff, like, maybe Shanks will come back to Elbaf, maybe not. I don't know. There's some interesting stuff in that video, I'm sure. I don't know how much I recommend it, but I kind of want to get back into it. I need to do more research on just Japanese mythology too, because there are a lot of like really interesting connections with the multiple worlds and the Harley text, and a lot of Japanese mythology kind of involves similar stuff. The Mishima mindset. It's also interesting because they also say that Fenrir would swallow the sun. The implication of that is kind of crazy. Yeah. I'm kind of interested to see. I mean, I'm really interested to see St. Garling, like whatever's going on with him, especially his yokai form. I'm kind of expecting a wolf. So I guess maybe if we apply my research from like 2 years ago, maybe Shanks will go against his dad. Because when we think about like kind of the matchups in that panel for the contenders for the One Piece that we get near the end of Egghead, like Shamrock is in that, Shanks is in that, Blackbeard's in that, Luffy's in that, obviously, but Garling is also in that. So you're like, who's Garling gonna go against? Maybe the first thought is something like Dragon, but maybe it's Shanks. Because the obvious pairing would be Shanks and Blackbeard and like Luffy and Emu or something, but if Dragon's ultimate opponent for the Revolutionary Army is the Celestial Dragons, then I think there's a decent argument that Dragon will be more interested in a head-to-head mano-a-mano fight with Emu or Garling. Obviously, I think Garling would get the first shot, so maybe we'll get something like that. Maybe it'll be... I mean, do you guys have any thoughts about who thinks that... Do you guys think that Shanks is going to ever fight Blackbeard? And do you think that Luffy will ever actually be able to return the hat to Shanks? Fenrir is also one of the sons of Loki. Yes. I have seen that before. I'm also crazy interested to figure out what Loki's devil fruit ability is, or anything about that. Like, I'm not sure if what he's done in the last chapter is anything related to a devil fruit, or just that weapon, or the Atom Tree. I really don't know. How long do you think Elbaf will be? With how much has been set up, I thought it would be quite long, like 70 to 100. Egghead was 68 chapters for reference, but after this, like, inciting incident, good word choice, not so sure. It's a good question. So, what, Elbaf started around, like, 1130? 1128, maybe? I thought it was going to be short. I kind of always thought it was going to be short, I guess. And I thought it was good, and I felt like that was a little bit confirmed when we got the little, like, Louis Arnott quote about, like, not lingering too long on Elbaf. I'm going to say 60 chapters. I think I'm going to... Oh, man. We're only 15 chapters in, so that'd be... We're only a quarter of the way through. Okay, I'm going to say 40 chapters. 40 chapters. That's my final answer. So if we're 15 chapters in... I'm trying to, like, really think about what could happen next and how many chapters that would take. So... I think this nightmare portion... I'm just gonna call it like a volume. Let's call it 9 chapters. And then we have to think what will happen after that. I don't think we'll destroy the tree yet. But I think these God's Knights will fail. I mean, personally, like, we don't know any of them. They have interesting powers and all this kind of stuff. So, I don't think they're going to necessarily be, like, the big bad of this, right? So, if they have to call reinforcements, though, the kind of complicated portion of this is that they would want to call in reinforcements, but they need reinforcements back in Marie-Joie as well, because shit is going down there with the Revolutionary Army. Maybe they'll call the rest of the God's Knights back to Elbaf and leave the Marie-Joie situation to Green Bull, Fujitora, and the Five Elders. I feel like that could kind of work, especially in like a time thing, but they are so epically fucked if they send God's Knights to Elbaf and then they lose. Because then they can't eventually go back to Elbaf. And even if they lose, if they're like severely injured and functionally can't fight or do anything anymore, then that's also basically just as bad. But then we have the other question is, we see that they can pass through the magic portal things, the little pentagrams. Not little, they're big. So there's a possible implication that they are going to be like the Five Elders, where they can't really take any damage. Like, they're functionally immortal. I don't really think that way, because I don't think there's like a ton of evidence, at least at this moment, that the God's Knights can live forever like it appears the Five Elders certainly can. Or that their like life is tied to Emu or something in some way. Oh, the Loki flashback. Okay, so a Loki flashback. That's got to be like another 8 chapters. So we're at 17 chapters. Assuming things come in more, we'll just toss in another volume there. Give it another 8 chapters. That's at 25. more. Give it 3 chapters to wrap up whatever's at the end of the arc. The 28 chapters. And then whatever is after, like, you know, flashbacks come at very pivotal moments. And so I think we could add like another 5 chapters in there. So I'm going to say there's 32 more chapters in the Elbaf arc. That's what I'm going to go with. Putting us at what? Around 45? Samuel, thank you for the congrats. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching my videos. I appreciate you. I appreciate all these people. Do you think, PK asks, do you think there'll be a God's Knights flashback this arc? The dialogue from Gunko made me think that we might get one for her. That is interesting. So I think like a God's Knights flashback would be... like, it wouldn't be like how I could imagine a Loki flashback, which I could imagine a Loki flashback being somewhere like a O'Hara incident or an Odin length or kind of anywhere in between there. But a God's Knights flashback, I would see that as more of like one of the flashbacks that's like a half a chapter or something, or like, you know, like 7 or 8 pages. Those are pretty common as well. And if Oda's really looking to kind of push through Elbaf and keep things trucking, because I know he's making very tough decisions of like what to cut to put in, because ultimately he needs to end the story, and he's aware that he can't do everything he definitely wants to do if he had unlimited time. So there's also the thing where we could just get like a 1-page or 1.5-page flashback as well, where you just kind of like briefly like see their thoughts, see a quick memory, and then kind of move on. Merchant, thank you for the congratulations. Thank you for being here. Samuel, your content is really, really good. Some of the best I've seen in the space. Keep it up. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't feel like I'm quite as consistent as I want to be. Like I want to have every video I put out, I just want to like feel good about it. So I don't have to like think about the views or anything like that, and just know that everybody that happens to watch it will find it good and interesting. But I'm getting there. I think I'm getting a lot more consistent, and really trying to have a lot of how would I say, diligence, and consistently working on my stuff and not panicking and trying to put out something that's not quite ready. I'd rather put out nothing than something that's not ready at this point. Do you think that Shamrock and Shanks are going to clash at some point? Tough question. Do I think Shamrock and Shanks will clash at some point? I mean, like, I definitely never thought about it before. I never thought that Shanks... well, never. Once I did a 5 Elders Explained video where I analyzed every chapter of the 5 Elders through the whole story until Egghead Island. And so I went over that part in the Reverie where evil Shanks walks in and is like, I want to talk to you about a pirate. Once I like analyzed that part of the manga for that video, I was like, that is definitely not Shanks. 0% chance. And but at the same time, I didn't really... well, I didn't even know about the God's Knights at the time of making that video. They came up during the Egghead arc when Sabo's Talk of the Dragon. So then it and I originally thought that Shanks was going to fight Blackbeard on Elbaf, but now I don't really see that as particularly likely. And so now I think probably the most, like, besides Blackbeard, the person that I would expect Shanks to fight would be, in order of like what I think is most likely, Shamrock, Darling, Luffy. Those are the 3 most likely in my mind. Besides Blackbeard. Blackbeard is still number 1. I think they are the most likely. That's like Shanks's next big fight. I want to see Mihawk have a real fight, but I mean, basically, well, I mean, I guess there's like people that should be like relatively in line with Mihawk. Like I think Zoro is pretty close. Maybe can't beat him quite yet, but definitely in the conversation. And then obviously some of these Gods Knights are definitely seeming like they are, you know, roughly as strong as an Emperor for the top end of them, at least. The whole, like, observation killer hockey stuff could play a pretty weird role in all of this as well. Engineer Kirby, hello. There is an obvious setup for a flashback of what happened on Shanks' visit to the Figurlands, right? Would fit right in on the confrontation. Yes, and I think that I just want to know what Shanks is doing right now. Like he says he wants to go get the One Piece, and it seems like they kind of stopped off to whoop some Straw Hat Grand Fleet ass. But it's tough to know where he's gonna go next. I can't really see him going back to Elbaf, right? Yeah. He might have some, like, knowledge about the burn scar person with that last poneglyph. Yeah, I'm so excited for the Mihawk fight. I feel like that's gonna go bananas. I mean, Zoro's fights are already so good. They're so... like, the way that Oda writes, like, Zoro's kind of, like, inner conflict during a fight, it's beautiful. Beautiful. That's actually... okay, I was talking about upcoming videos and projects. Besides trying to finish up this fan letter project in a way that I'm happy with, and the Blackbeard Explained video, and the lore video, which is kind of a more long-term thing, probably months down the road, I really want to make a I really want to make a video going over all of Zoro's, like, difficult fights, where he's kind of looks like he's gonna lose. So these are like, obviously I gotta show Mihawk and Zoro. I think that chapter where they fight is like one of the best chapters of One Piece ever. His fight against Mr. One, like, beautiful, very interesting about like his kind of early appearance of observation hockey, early appearance of armament hockey, and reflecting on his sensei's teachings and stuff about like knowing how to not cut things with a blade and cutting the things that you only want to cut. I'm not sure how much like the Kaku and Zoro fight in Enies Lobby would be interesting in terms of like his philosophy of growing as a swordsman. I haven't read that exact portion of One Piece in almost 2 years at this point. Back when my wife was reading Enies Lobby. And then the next fight, like the whole, like things in Thriller Bark would be great to cover, right? His fight with getting Shisui, the whole fight with, my brain is Ryuma, right? That would be really interesting to go over in depth. And the whole nothing happened moment, and his fight with Oars, and kind of like Zoro shows a lot of like leadership and stuff in that portion, and a lot of trust in his teammates, and yeah, just especially nothing happens is like endlessly fascinating. And then I'm not sure how much Pika was like really a challenge for Zoro. Zoro does not have too many serious challenges in the post time skip, but his fight with King and his showdown with Big Mom and Kaido, I mean, it's peak. It's peak. And like the whole everything with King and him ultimately defeating King, incredible. Incredibly written. I love it. It's amazing. So that's a video. I really want to make a video about that really, really badly. I really grew a new appreciation for that when I reread the Onigashima raid and rereading the King versus Zoro portion. Like, I found that so beautiful, especially since I also reread Alabasta and the whole Mr. One fight recently as well. Shanks never beating the deadbeat allegation. Oda is such a like Shanks, Dragon, Emu. Like Oda has been dangling, in Blackbeard too, for sure. He's been dangling these people for so long and stuff. It's and just drip feeding us just little pieces of those characters and what they're gonna do. Yeah, it's torturous, but I'm patient enough. I can last until he's ready to show me, and I trust him completely. Hey, hi, Isa? Is that what you say? As a dad, who are your favorite kid characters in One Piece? I love Tama. Oh, Tama no Toko. Amazing. That's a really cool question, though. As a dad. Favorite kid characters. What's the girl's name in Skypiea? It's not coming to my head right away. I need to, like, I'm interested in seeing, or like, I'm rereading Skypiea soon with my wife. We decided to read it together, and I'm going to do a little video with her. And she chose to reread Skypiea, which I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And I love that girl and her dad. Like, their dynamic is fun, so I'm excited to see them again. I don't know if I'm allowed to touch, like, Kid Ace and Kid Sabo, because, like, their stories in the post-war saga, it was devastating. Absolutely devastating for me. And, like, does Carrot count as a kid? Probably not. I mean, functionally in the story, I don't think she counts as one, necessarily. I would say that Otoko's is probably my favorite kid story. That whole, like, storyline with Yasui and the Smile Fruits in general absolutely devastated me on my first read of Wano, and still devastates me. Like the amount that like just hit me. I just remember crying so much of, like, the kind of, like, pain. Like, I just thought they were, like, so weird. They're just, like, laughing uncontrollably. And then you learn that that's all they can do. That's the only emotion they can, like, observe, like, show other people. And then Yasui's, and then at the end of Wano, you see that Yasui, Otoko ate the Smile Fruit in the first place because she was so hungry, and so just desperate for food, which is like a theme that we see with normal devil fruits, is that people will eat them because they're very hungry. And he was like, oh my gosh, what did you do? Like, I told you not to eat these. And she was just so hungry. And so Yasui at that moment, and Yasui is one of my favorite characters, is like, he's like, I'm gonna smile and laugh with you. I'm gonna eat this fruit, and we're gonna share this together, and I'm gonna turn this horrible tragedy that just happened to this girl with all this potential, and I'm gonna turn it into something positive, something that we can share and, like, build a connection over, make a positive memory out of it. And it's something that just really reminds me of the Will of D as well, because the Will of D, to me, is ultimately like, you're saying goodbye to the world, right? Like, Will of D is emblematic of, well, when you're going to die, and how do you react to that? And so in the Will of D, what we see most of the time is, and the way I see it, personally, is that they smile at death. And so why are they smiling? Is it because they're happy? I don't know how much evidence there is for that, besides maybe their belief that they know that, like, their dream is going to be carried on, right? But besides that, they know people are watching them, right? People they care about. And do they want to die looking deeply afraid, deeply sad. No, they want to leave with a smile so that they're not inheriting their hatred, so that they inherit their dream instead. And I think there's a lot of stuff about that with like Cody Jones and just generally. Oh, and Robin and Jaguar D. Saul as well. Oh, her name is Iza. And your name is Iza too? That's fun. Yeah, I want to see that character again. Yeah, that story, there's a lot of moments in One Piece that have made me cry and still make me cry if I reread them. Robin's backstory is a different tier, especially after the flashback when she met Saul again. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. I agree that the Ohara incident flashback is pretty top tier in devastation. And the thematic meaning of the Ohara incident and Robin's relationship with Saul, where you laugh through pain to feel better. I think it's something so integral to One Piece. Yashui showed Otoko that she wasn't alone and that they can laugh together. Yeah, 100% agreed. And then like Otoko in that moment in Wano, when this is like a really interesting part about rereading the Onigashima portion of Wano, because that whole flower festival is happening, and they're sending up lanterns with their hopes and dreams on them, right? And they're writing it on the lanterns, and Otoko writes first, like, I miss you, Daddy, or I want to see you again, Daddy. Something like that. And when Kaido's defeated, and she thinks a little bit more about what she really wants to say, she crosses that out, and she writes, thank you, Daddy. And I'm like, that was a lot. And, yeah, she's just an adorable character. I think that they are happy because their life is fulfilled. Yeah, okay, I read that part. Yeah, Kid Robin's story, I mean, like, I wish I could have protected her at all costs, because that is, her story is devastating, even without the Ohara incident. It was really sad before she met Saul. Obviously, like, I've grown a really big appreciation for Bonnie as a kid in One Piece. Like, it's pretty similar, right, to where she's definitely one of my favorite kid characters. Favorite parents in One Piece, for sure, for me, would be Whitebeard. I would call Rocinante a parent. He functions as that in the flashback and stuff. And Rocinante is one of my favorites. Kuma. Dadan. I'm probably fucking up her name. But like her love, her like being like, fuck these kids and like, go get your own food and you guys are annoying, go away. And then by the time the kids are kind of like finding themselves and she's grown to love them and stuff, and like what she does for Ace and Sabo and Luffy and what she feels for them, especially when Ace dies and she confronts Garp, and when Sabo quote unquote dies and she's trying to save Ace from running to his own death. At that time, like the way that she explains that it's like the world that killed Sabo, like, yeah. Another beautiful parent character. Odin, one of my favorite characters, the way that, and I see Odin obviously as a parent of Momonosuke and stuff, but like I see him as a parent for all of like the modern Wano and like what he did during the hour of well, what he did when he was boiled, you know, like such like a powerful act, such a powerful like imagery on like leaving a memory for the people of Wano to keep like some spark of hope over all this time between Luffy showing up and liberating Wano. Like, if he didn't do that, if he didn't leave that memory with them, I kind of feel like they might have all just like fought to their own deaths against Kaido and or whatever, right? Like, it would have been a lot worse. Yeah. The Will of Dreams. Hey, the Will of Dreams. Is your real name Will, or you just that'd be a pretty clever use of that name if your name was oh, Bellemere. Oh my gosh, Bellemere's backstory still makes me cry. Like, it's a powerful one. That's a really powerful one. Oh, this mug is so big. The emu mirror. Zanzibar. What do you mean by emu mirror? I'm so curious. Yeah. Dadan is Tsundere. Rocinante's story goes 10 times when Sengoku's deadpans the law why Rocinante did all he did. Yeah. I agree. That is a powerful moment too, that conversation and stuff. I do feel like a little bit of, I feel anger towards both these characters, Garp and Sengoku, like, they ultimately, like, they put the world, or like what they think they're protecting with the world, like, above their family or like people they love. And I don't like that very much. And so, like, even though I really like Garp in so many ways, I don't really particularly like Sengoku that much. I mean, he's an interesting character, like, well written and stuff, but like in terms of like being my homie, Sengoku is not my homie at all. At all. I really like the way he like talks about Ace during the Marine, especially the early portions of Marineford, and what it's implied that he knows about the true history of this world. Like, I fucking hate Sengoku, to be honest. Like, and then Garp, I feel like he's just in like such a tough position. But at the same time, I still really wish he made different choices, right? I think he made some poor choices. But hopefully we get like a proper God Valley flashback and kind of learn more about what makes Garp tick, because he is a very fascinating character. I feel so bad for Momonosuke. I used to think he was a brat, which he kind of is. I agree, I felt the same way. But he was robbed of his childhood, figuratively and literally. Yeah, Momonosuke's story is devastating, and like that happening to a kid that was the same age as Robin during the Ohara incident. Devastation, complete devastation. And I really like the relationship between Momonosuke and Luffy, where Luffy does become, like, even pretty early on, becomes a version of a mentor for Momonosuke, because Luffy's like, I'm going to be king of the pirates. And so in a way, he's kind of showing Momonosuke of how to be a leader, how to achieve a dream and all this kind of stuff. And I think that really came to a nice climax in Wano, with Momonosuke making a very mature decision and saying, like, I need to make a sacrifice here, or I'm going to lose people I care about. And he gives up a big chunk of his life. And to me, that's very similar to what Luffy has done, like when he gets the hormone injections to heal quicker during like Impel Down and Marineford. And like Luffy just would not hesitate anyways to literally die if it meant he at least died trying to save the people he cared about, or save, or like achieve a promise that he made for somebody that he cared about. I think the Marines would kill off Garp's family if he did anything. Yeah, I mean, he definitely didn't have choices, right? During Marineford. I mean, I functionally think that something similar. I don't know how much it could have put a way bigger target on Luffy right away, where they send the whole, like, the full power of the Navy at him as soon as he shows up at Dressrosa or something. That's true. But I guess at the same time, I'm like, how do you... it's hard for me, in a way, to understand how he made his choices. And so while it is frustrating and upsetting for me, like, I'm ultimately mostly interested in learning about his reasoning for his decisions. His reasoning for even staying in the Marines at all, assuming he knows a decent chunk of the true history and what the Celestial Dragons are and stuff. Like, I mean, he knows that they are such a powerful force of injustice in this world, and his kind of black and white view of pirates. You know, I figured that he would learn that there's a little bit more nuance in there. So I don't think he's stupid or something. I just want to know his reasoning. But he's kind of like Luffy, where I'm like, I don't know if we'd ever really get that much inner dialogue. So the only way that I would really learn this is through a flashback of some sort. Yeah, the blackmail and stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, Luffy would definitely die smiling. Yeah, I definitely think... I assume, Kirby, I assume you're talking about Sengoku and Garp. I definitely think they're very... Like, what happened in Marineford didn't play out how they wanted it to, and I definitely feel like that has haunted them. Like, Sengoku, like, I'm like, his hockey's probably weak as hell right now. I think Garp has a kind heart. I predict he is playing a game where he is being manipulated by those who are holding something against him, like the lives of his loved ones. And I also think that with Garp, there's like a chance that he really knows a lot of the stuff that Roger learned. Like, I mean, maybe Roger straight up told him, like he kind of tells Whitebeard. And so there's like a good chance that Garp sees a bigger picture. And again, just to be clear, I do love Garp. Like, he is, I don't know exactly where he is on my like favorite character list, but I would expect him to be somewhere in the top 25 or so, right? But I definitely feel frustrated by him in like a very real sense. Like, if you've ever been frustrated at a friend, or frustrated with a parent or whatever, like, it's in more of that line than like more just like hatred. Like, I really do not like Sengoku. Like, the way I can't even, like, Marineford is such like a powerful arc, and like the shit that Sengoku says during that arc, it pisses me off so much. It pisses me off so much. Oh yeah, when Kuma asked Dragon about his son. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely something, there's definitely some stuff about Garp and I just want to know it. Just please tell me. And it could definitely be. Maybe we'll learn more about Garp actually during some type of dragon backstory. That would fit kind of well. That would be nice. You'd be getting two birds with one stone. Dragon is another complicated character, feelings-wise, but with that kind of more, with the Kuma flashback and stuff, I definitely don't feel like much particular frustration with Dragon, but very fascinating character, and I'm just dying to learn more. Ooh, Garp may be held hostage essentially by the world government to serve in the Marines. Yeah, I definitely think he's just straight up not allowed to resign or anything like that. I think, am I crazy, or is there like a part where he tries to resign and they just like don't let him, and they kind of just let him do whatever he wants instead? I don't remember if that's in a One Piece movie or there's canonical. And Garp went to get punched in the face intentionally. Yeah, he was like, he was essentially beating himself up when he went and... Oof. I don't know. I mean, like, it's hard to even know the reason that he was there besides that, right? That he was like, man, I just kind of want to get my ass kicked by somebody that I know who really loved Ace and Sabo and Luffy. And, like... I think he was like, I just need this. Like, nobody in the Marines is going to do this for me, so I'm going to go, like, just let it happen. I think that makes a lot of sense. There's a theory that Dragon had a child with a celestial dragon. Like a separate one from Luffy? Yeah, one compulsive eater and just wastes away, and one doing self-harm. Yeah, that's kind of dark. Yeah, they both definitely got some... So this is like a totally separate kid, huh? Oh, Luffy's mom is a celestial dragon is the theory? I feel like I remember hearing that one a while back and stuff. I'm not sure what the reasoning would be, but I have heard it before. And, you know, it's like something that, like, I would mostly investigate myself before I come into, like, a full conclusion. That tends to work better for me in terms of, like, making a video and stuff, too. But I guess, like, making the real Monkey D. Dragon video is definitely something that I've got it in notes somewhere. Where I go through every panel that Drag is in, and just to try to learn as much and just break that character and everything around him down as much as possible so that I can, like, critique theories or make my own theory or whatever. Help other people make theories. I think other people are mostly better at making theories than I am, but I think my strength is kind of breaking down pieces into an interesting analysis. Luffy's mom being named Celesta is a funny theory. I'm like, what have I thought before about Luffy's mom? I kind of want to make a video of like, like leaning into the Croc mom theory, which is obviously pretty silly, but just kind of like looking at everything from Crocodile from the assumption that Crocodile is somehow Luffy's mom. I think that would be a fun video and maybe interesting in discovery, but you know. think my main theory about who Luffy's mom would be is like something. So like, I guess the two ideas I have is like, Dragon was a Marine at some point, probably an admiral, maybe a vice admiral, but very powerful enough so that when he left the Navy, he started the group called the Freedom Fighters, right? And the Freedom Fighters are just people who with aligned interests. It's essentially a pirate crew trying to eliminate the structure of the world where the celestial dragons are, seen and upheld as people that are above humans, as gods or whatever, and that's essentially that goal. Tried to be non-violent, right? So then I guess my theory about Luffy's mom would be that whatever happened to Luffy's mom was like an inciting incident, as PK used earlier, an inciting incident to lead him to leaving the Marines and starting the Freedom Fighters. So that's how I could see Luffy's mom being involved in the story. And then the other possibility is that Luffy's mom was a freedom fighter and something happened to her in a similar vein to the whole like Jenny storyline. Those are my kind of main theories. Now, I guess the whole like inciting incident for like the Freedom Fighters, that actually doesn't line up on the timeline with the Ohara. I don't think it lines up with the timeline of the Ohara incident, Dragon going to Ohara's grave and as a and then having the conviction to start a revolutionary army rather than just like a peaceful freedom fighters group. So that kind of doesn't line up, but it does line up if Luffy's mom joined the revolutionary army or something, right? I mean, I don't know how else he could really meet somebody and have a child with them if they weren't associated with the revolutionary army, unless he has some kind of secret stuff going on. But I mean, it's certainly possible. I just don't currently see the path for that. I think Luffy's mom will have the personality of Luffy, which makes sense since Dragon does not really. He's got pieces of it, but not. Like how in Naruto, he took after the personality of his mother. Yeah, I agree with that. Is it confirmed that they didn't exist before him? Is it confirmed that Luffy's mom didn't exist before Luffy? Is that what the question is? Sorry. Well, Roger... Kirby says, well, Roger out of the blue went and had a baby in like a few months. That's true. Romance seems to be very fast in One Piece. Yeah. It's very interesting. Very interesting. It, like, to me, my reading of that whole, like, Roger, like, it seemed like he was trying to, like, forcibly make Joy Boy, right? Like, he was, like, he truly believed that Joy Boy would be his son, and so he's like, I gotta go have a baby. I definitely know Shibodi. I think in Japanese it's enunciated differently, but Shibodi is a grove. I mean, so Shibodi is an archipelago, so it's a bunch of tiny little islands, right? But they're not really land. They're like basically like groves of trees, right? Yeah, and it's huge, just like 30-something islands. So, I mean, I would call it a grove. Yeah. My theory is that Dragon, as a marine, fell in love with a celestial dragon woman who wasn't like the others. That would be interesting. And I definitely think that there's like an interesting component of the celestial dragons, right? Where like celestial dragons are like, a lot of people are like, fuck the celestial dragons, like they're evil and stuff, and they certainly are. But we also know that they're just humans because we've seen celestial dragons that are different. Like Rocinante is a celestial dragon, right? Bonnie is a celestial dragon, right? Saint Moisgard, I think. Or maybe it's like the one that was in Fishman Island that was saved by Otahime. Like, he ends up becoming what appears to be a good celestial dragon. And that the reason why the celestial dragons are so awful is because they live in an echo chamber, or they're like in a cave or something, where they're like a lot of the people in One Piece themselves, where they don't know the outside world like at all. They only know what they've read and heard from other shitty, terrible people. What they've read and learned about their ideology, all of which is not reliable. And so their whole belief system is based off of that. But when we see the celestial dragon go into the world nakedly, without their like status, or like without like the capability to just like murder people, we've seen them change, right? And then we've also seen them not change. Like, obviously Doflamingo is a monster the whole way through and through. Could it be somebody's grave? Like a Subodhi? That's interesting. I mean, like, the positioning of Subodhi and Mary Joie and the Red Line, like, and plus with like the sea level changes, like, I could see that like the true nature of what Subodhi was in the past, like, could be tragic or important, or however you want to think about it. Elbaf is probably a grove too. That's interesting. Obath sounds like the big bathtub. Really. Compassion is part of human nature. It can't be completely wiped out. Yeah, exactly. So like, the celestial dragons are humans, and so they have the innate capability of compassion, of dreams and stuff, but it's been poisoned, right, by their status and their kind of unwarranted power. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the celestial dragons are particularly happy people. There's kind of like this interesting part too, where like you know, the five elders are all celestial dragons themselves. And when I did the Five Elders Explained video, it was really interesting when the five elders like saw Imu in the throne room, and then they get on their knees and are like bowing to Imu, and they look deeply anxious, deeply afraid. Like, they are essentially slaves of Imu. Imu has absolute authority over them. And there's that really interesting part in Egghead too, when Saturn first sees Luffy in the Nika form, and he's like, Nika. Like, and it's not in a negative way at all. It's like, it's almost like, Nika, like, I've always like heard about you, and like, here you are, and kind of fucking awesome. There's this kind of So I'd say like one of my main discoveries of the Five Elders is how much they like just deeply fear Emu. And it just creates this very interesting dynamic among them. Christopher Radar, thank you for the congratulations. I appreciate you. You've been watching my stuff for a while now. It is really sad that the Celestial Dragons have had compassion robbed from them due to their upbringing. Yeah, and the Celestial Dragons ultimately, like, they have behaved like monsters for the most part in the story, but they are people, and they essentially do not dream. They have like no real purpose to live, like in the way that they're like brought into the world and stuff. They're just like, you're here to just eat food and do whatever you want, whatever that means. And like, I think a lot of them have essentially lost their capacity to dream. And if you're a fan of One Piece, you obviously know that there's a very tragic component to that. So I guess earlier we were talking about Gunko being terrified of Nika and just kind of like Gunko's whole role and stuff. And yeah, Gunko kind of might represent that possibility of this other side of the Celestial Dragons too. I know some people see Gunko as a potential kind of mole for the Revolutionary Army to some extent or something. That could be interesting. Radar says, America, the most quote-unquote successful, like economically basically, country on the planet, is not topping the happiness polls. No. And if you are in America or you pay attention to global politics, hopefully you understand that the average American is not particularly happy. Any wage inequality is crazy bad here. The standard of living for a lot of people that honestly probably aren't here that often, because like getting into One Piece requires a certain amount of like economic like privilege, because you like have to have like a tablet, or you have to have a way to access the manga, which could be done for free from a library, but that's a whole thing. You have to have internet. I mean, there's lots of people in the country, unfortunately, who don't have clean water, consistent electricity, consistent internet, or any internet at all. Like if I go down to our city library here, where I live, there's lots of people that are on just like the public computers and stuff out here because they don't have internet at home. They come here to access the internet. And so being able to even read One Piece is a privilege. And I had a commenter on my video. I think they probably started with my newest video about Luffy destroying the world, and then watched like a why One Piece is more important than ever video, which I released November. And they said something along the lines of like they wish like that they could buy a whole bunch of full collections of One Piece and just give it to kids, give it to the elderly, because most One Piece fans have been so like touched by this story that we feel like it's really actually benefited our lives. I mean, I know I have. It's as if you are brought up on that. What responsibility do you have for your actions? They are responsible, but what choice do they have? Yes, they are the Celestial Dragons are responsible for what they've done, but then we also need to think about like what choices they had, what possibilities they had. And a lot of people have talked about the Celestial Dragons like they should just be wiped out. this is an Attack on Titan, and I don't think that way, and I don't think Luffy would think that way. But I think he, like Luffy for the Celestial Dragons, he would love to crush Mary Joie, love to crush their like the symbol of their oppression. He'd love to just destroy their will. And so, I mean, ultimately, I think that's what's going to happen in the story. And then from there, I mean, Luffy would essentially be liberating the Celestial Dragons as well, because as has been completely applied, they might be the dominant power in the world, but they are not any freer than, I mean, they're as unfree as a lot of people. Alright, I'm going to take a quick, like, 2-minute break to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back, and then I'll hop back in and read the questions in chat and stuff. But this has been a lot of fun. Don't go anywhere, please. But if you do need to go somewhere, that's fine. But I'll be right back. Thanks, guys. Alright, I don't know if that was 1 minute or 2 minutes or however much time, but I'm back. Let me take a look at the chat. Okay, here's where I was kind of before. It's as if you were brought up in that what responsibility do you have for your actions? They are responsible. Oh yeah, okay, so I read that part. Celestial dragons seem like a parallel to the Skypians that live, quote, happy lives only because they ignore the impression that finances or supports them. Man, if you weren't here earlier, Kirby, like my wife and I are going to reread Skypiea really soon. I'm excited to see some of this stuff. I don't quite remember that portion as well. I remember when I went over the Harley mural and stuff that there was like an angel kind of near like what would look like the Noah or something like that on the right side of the mural, and there was like an angel. And then I've realized since then, but not at the moment of doing that analysis, that was like a Skypian. Gunko being ex-revolutionary would be really interesting to see a person defect from the revolutionaries. Well, I guess the other thing about Gunko, like maybe it's not even like defected from the revolutionary armies, but was captured and then like enslaved as a soldier of Emu, basically. That's also possible and deeply dark. But like the whole defected from the revolutionary armies for more like personal power is also very interesting as well. I'd be fine with either one of those. One Piece seems to be consistent in their representation of apartheid-style societies and the inequality we see in the One Piece world. Yeah, they show a lot of things that are like related to the apartheids we've seen in Gaza and South Africa and stuff as well. I think the Kuma flashback shows like a pretty direct symbolism or whatever you would say to that, like a very direct parallel to real world state of Israel, basically. If you just give it away, people will ignore it. Well, the King of the Pirates is kind of like somebody you mentioned earlier. Or the King of Paradise. King of Paradise. Yeah, Oda won't just wipe out the Celestial Dragons. He will humanize them, but he won't defend what they did. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm very curious. I mean, the tough part, like, about the Celestial Dragons, as we've seen in the Dressrosa flashback, as we've seen with Fisher Tiger's story, is, like, when the world is essentially, like, reset or whatever, like, how are people going to be able to, what's going to happen to people's anger and stuff towards all that pain that they've been the source of? It'd be very interesting how Oda handles that, because that is a difficult subject to tackle. Because obviously we saw in the Dressrosa flashback that hatred. I mean, it's nasty stuff. It does not help anybody. And then we see it in the Fisher Tiger flashback that, like, that hatred for your own heart and stuff, like, it's lethal. It kills you. Now, the only reason Fisher Tiger died is because his heart was filled with hate for what happened to him and his brothers and sisters. Such like a heartbreaking backstory. Let's see. The people who just want to see the Celestial... Yeah, I agree that the people who just want to see the Celestial Dragons suffer don't understand the story. I mean, there are a lot of young readers of One Piece, and then even older readers, you know, like, can be pretty... I don't know, not like a sensitive word to use there, but, you know, people have leanings towards kind of reactionary thought. And that's definitely one of them. I mean, like, the human emotions are powerful things and how they affect our thoughts and behaviors. But ultimately, if Oda can like, not show it that way, if Oda can the way that Oda handles the whole Celestial Dragons evil that they've committed and stuff, and how they land at the end of the story, could be really impactful for the people that have felt that way. What are their spacesuits for? My guess of the spacesuits, it's for like it's like the Celestial Dragons live, it's like the allegory of the cave, right? They just live in this little box, and they don't really know shit about the rest of the world. And so there's like ideas and myths about the world and what's going to happen to the world that they just create because they're people, and you do that to fill in the gaps if you don't go out there and, like, see the world for yourself. And so, like, my guess is that, like, the world, like, they see, like, the surface maybe, or just the world as being kind of like poisonous or unclean or something like that, and they're keeping themselves pure with their suits. I think it's basically kind of like the mythos of the world for them. Not using the best word choice here, but it is what it is. Maybe they'll cope with anger and hatred through laughter. That's definitely possible. There's a theory that the celestial dragons are cattle for Emu to use in some way. Yeah, I'm very curious to see what the greater plan is for like Emu and stuff with like the end of this world. Because I mean, they know what's happening. Sorry if I'm missing anybody's message and stuff. Trying to hit everything, but hit hard. Oh, so the spacesuits hide the dragon scales or snake skin? No, I don't think that. I mean, like, maybe they... That would be probably rumors that other people would have about celestial dragons, the people in the world who rarely, if probably never see them. Hopefully they never see them. Fisher Tiger seems to represent that damage sometimes can be too much to overcome, but we can still choose not to pass down the hate. I 100% agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, the whole, like, theme and message of Fishman Island is a very powerful one, and pretty much carries the arc. They literally live in a bubble. Yeah, they don't want to breathe the same air as commoners. It's a common trope for the people that see themselves as above others. Oda, it's just a bubble. The celestial dragons are allowed to do whatever they want, but in reality they are probably the least free people on the planet, aside from the literal slaves. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with that. But they are deeply unfree. I mean, they've seen, like, just in terms of, like, understanding the world, they know nothing. Nothing. There are 4 different types of Naga. The lowest level live in the ocean and are basically the fishmen. Maybe why the celestial dragons hate fishmen so much. Lesser version of them. The whole, like, fishman thing, like, I mean, ultimately, I've seen the whole, like, fishman and slave stuff as kind of... I've just been assuming that Oda is doing it in similar to what, like, real life chattel slavery was like, which is ultimately the actual purpose of chattel slavery was to be a source of just, like, more economic power for capital owners. And that they kind of created the idea of race, and one race being, like, worse than another, as, like, a justification for a completely evil system. And so fishermen are known for being really physically powerful, and so I've seen the, like, that they were people that were, like, used for their, like, labor. Right? That they have strong, sturdy bodies, like, oh boy, my brain's failing me here. What is Kuma's race again? Buccaneer. Like the Buccaneers, they have a lot of constitution, a lot of just, like, physical power, and, you know, could be used for that. And nowadays in the story, they're more used for kind of, like, personal, like, exploitation for individual celestial dragons. But the history of slavery, we know, goes back tens of thousands of years to the first world. And I say tens of thousands of years, by the way, because Loki says that some of the trees that are around him in the underworld are from the first world, which he says is tens of thousands of years ago. There is a theory that Emu is harvesting the joy of the celestial dragons, which is why they are so negative and dreamless. That's interesting too. I mean, I could definitely see Emu being something of, like, a dream eater or something of sorts. It's also interesting, if you've ever thought about it, that how rare it is that somebody's dreams, like, come true. Like, Who in One Piece has had their dream actually come true? Whitebeard, I would say. Celestial Nagas could hide their scales with glimmer. Maybe the air on Marijois keeps them human looking, and why they need the air to breathe, or they change back. That would be interesting if there's like something like that. There's also kind of like this idea too, right? That the there's like the celestial dragons, just like the ones in the suits and stuff, the ones that we've seen like through a big chunk of the story. And then there's people like the Gods Knights and the Five Elders, and they don't wear suits or anything. And the people that are the celestial dragons are the kind of like original, they're from the original families that were the leaders of the countries that made up the alliance during the Void Century. So they're like actually humans. But maybe there are some people in the Celestial Dragons, like Emu themselves specifically, that is not a regular human, Maybe comes from space or something, I don't know. But it's definitely an idea that is possible. Arth, I have a good video theory idea for you. Let it rip, Arth. I'm looking at the chat, so I'll see it when it comes up. One serious question I have is, what does Emu get out of all this? That's a great question. I've been asking that for a long time. I mean, my main idea with Emu is it gets kind of complicated. I'm sorry if this gets crazy. But Emu shares a name with Emu Neurona, which was one of the kings of the Alliance during the Void Century that ultimately created and founded the world government. So the body, I largely see the body of Emu is probably being that person. Devil fruits come into existence from the dreams and hopes of people. And so we know that, for instance, the Nika fruit would have come into existence from slaves that were wishing to be liberated, right? But what if there was somebody that created a devil fruit through their will or their dream, and they wished to inflict pain on people, that they kind of wish for vengeance or something, right? And so what would happen to somebody who was a normal person if they ate a devil fruit with that level of like maliciousness or malice inside the will of the fruit? Because we know that Zoan fruits, specifically non-artificial Zoan fruits, the Five Elders themselves say they have a will of their own. And so a fruit a Zoan fruit especially, that comes from that type of malice could have a very powerful will. And so my idea is that this Emu Neurona was in an alliance that was in a direct alliance with Lily, Nefertari Lily, and that Lily knew Joy Boy, who was not directly part of this alliance, but was was a pirate, and Lily was a friend, and ultimately joined Lily's side as not part of the alliance, but just as Lily's friend, and maybe was actually friends with Emu Neurona as well. I don't know. But it's said repeatedly that the will of a Zoan fruit really comes especially in terms of awakening, right? The awakening portion of a will in a Zoan fruit could take over a person's mind. And so if that malicious fruit that I was talking about and kind of like coming up with right here took over Emu Neurona, that could make them maybe do something like betray Joy Boy, betray Lily. But if the will of the fruit takes over the other person's body, like what happens to their will that is now kind of like covered up? Would it have some effect on them still? And that kind of ties back into like what we see Emu doing more in the current part of the story, which is just hanging out in a room of flowers, looking at pictures of Luffy, Blackbeard, Shirahoshi, Vivi, and also has a massive kind of painting in their chamber. And I would suspect that that's more of like this kind of like buried will of Emu Nerona. Another way that the emu could be immortal is by like the previous like a previous like Void Century era Op fruit user swapping like the will of the devil fruit with the will of the person, or like the soul of the person and the soul of the fruit. I mean, we know from Vegapunk that souls, and we know from Brook kind of as well, that souls are like in One Piece. Souls are kind of part of science, that they have measurable properties. So like an Op fruit switches places within the space. Like, could you switch out like the soul of something for another person if you're like that level of a fruit master? Yeah, it's comes up. So then like if we go back to your question, Kirby, of like what does Emu get out of all this? Well, Emu might get vengeance for a crime, like might be like kind of going through that malicious dream that created the fruit, created this will that is kind of overpowering the world. Like Emu just wants to destroy stuff. I mean, I think back to something like Law when we first see him as a kid in the flashback. He's just like, I just want to destroy everything, right? Kill as many people as I can. So, I'm not necessarily, I'm pretty much of the mind that Emu doesn't really want anything. But it's a tough one. It's a really tough one. And I think that if anything that Emu wants is like that little bit of will that's left from the original person, and that's like desiring Lily for some reason. Tough to say though. The Tontada were enslaved, but probably not for labor. They were probably kept as pets. Yeah, that's... yikes. Yeah, we saw how Road wanted to treat humans. Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, keeping all of the manga in your memory. I have to constantly reread arcs and stuff. It's so helpful. Oh, and then Emu feeds of fostering inequality and vengeance among people in the world. Yeah, that's I didn't like say that directly, at least in a particularly concise way, but like I agree with what you just said based off of what I said, Kirby. That Emu feeds off of fostering inequality and vengeance. Yeah, that's interesting. There's a theory that Emu isn't an actual person per se, but more like the manifestation of somebody's dream being made into reality through some mechanism, and it has persisted to maintain. Yeah, so that kind of is in line with my theory and idea of what Emu is and wants and all that kind of stuff. And the power of hate, the dream that won't die, which is kind of interesting because I see Blackbeard as having a kind of a correlation with Emu in a lot of ways. And we know it when Blackbeard talks about dreams of Luffy in the Jaya arc, that he says, like, dreams never die or dreams will never end and all that kind of stuff, right? But when we see Luffy talk about his dream in chapter 1060, I think, and he shares it with the Straw Hats, he says that's what's at the end of my dream. So, like, Luffy's dream very specifically has an ending, according to himself. And so I would assume that Joy Boy and Roger also saw it as an ending to their dream. So Blackbeard also is a foil, like Blackbeard's dream is a foil to Joy Boy and Roger's dream as well, which, reinforces that what Whitebeard said is true, is that Joy Boy is not, like, Teach is not the guy. But maybe Teach is the guy for Emu in a way. I mean, I largely see Blackbeard's role for the end of the story is stealing Emu's power for himself. I mean, he would love that, right? And, like, if anything, Blackbeard directly wants kind of Emu's position, if anything. Yeah, Emu's biggest want is just bringing me somebody that looks like Lily. Yeah. Yeah, even when destroying Lelouch, it was like, nuke Lelouch, why? Like, the Five Elders did question that, and he was like, whatever, I just want to, it's just, like, he was almost like, I could see it from my window, and that would be sick. Because it's, like, the justification was that it's nearby. But there's also, like, a kind of an implication that the true justification is, like, I'm pissed that that motherfucker Sabo, who showed up and, like, was annoying, and, like, that's pretty much the only place he could be going, so let's just nuke that place. Showing that there is kind of, like, maybe this, like, human element still inside of Emu, even if they're pretending that it's not. What place got deleted because Sabo was there? That's Lelouch, yeah. I think I was just making an example out of Sabo. Or, I think he was just making an example out of Sabo. Why wouldn't he? Yeah, I agree with that pretty much. Sabo knew information that he may have spread to Lelouch. Yeah, and I think, well, it also could just be like some revenge against Lelouch for leaving the world government. For, like, almost like, I'm jealous that they abandoned me. Because Lelouch was one of the nations that, like, declared independence, like, with the backing of the Revolutionary Army. It is kind of interesting, right, that in Emu's, like, little pictures of bounty posters and shit that they have, like, there's no dragon, there's no Shanks, there's no Loki. And I would think that maybe there's a possibility that if Emu could, they would have a picture of, like, Momonosuke there. But Wano being closed makes that not really possible. But there's also the contradiction of deleting Lelouch but keeping it secret. Yeah. Yeah, the level of, like, secrecy of, like, just disappearing these things is very interesting, because it's like an open secret to some people. You know, I mean, a lot of people in the world would not even know Lelouch existed in the first place, because the One Piece world is so insanely isolated everywhere. Yeah, Lelouch was probably on the list for those human hunting games in the near future. Yeah, making an example out of a rebel will usually be publicized, but not kept secret. But I mean, everybody that would possibly be doing like a rebellion or anything similar to the Lucia, like I feel like just through like the channels of information and stuff, like they're going to know that Lelouch was destroyed, and they're going to know why, probably, like about like declaring independence. Even if the rest of the world now, I mean, I don't feel like Emu cares at all about what the majority of regular people think, I guess. Yeah. Emu is a odd duck, that is for sure. And then there's like the whole... I talk about this a little bit in a video recently that doesn't get a ton of traction, but we really don't know how big Emu is, right? We don't. And then like what comes to mind with that is like we don't... Emu keeps like a frozen giant straw hat in like basically like a vault. And that's crazy, right? We don't know how big that straw hat really is. I mean, Oda doesn't really draw things correctly to proportion, and he said in interviews that, you know, his focus when drawing things in proportion is really about just making it, like, look correct in the panel. Which I appreciate that. I mean, it would be a huge pain in the ass to, like, draw everything perfectly proportionally. But we don't... When Emu is standing in front of the frozen straw hat, holding up a picture of Luffy in his straw hat, Emu's like, it's like the same hat, but different. I think Emu... And, like, we know Joy Boy wasn't that big, clearly. So, who are some of the other people having the straw hats, right? And it kind of depends, like, how big Emu is. It also depends on how far away Emu was standing from the straw hat in that panel, which you can't tell. It's just a fact. And so a straw hat of that size could have been from, you know, an Elbaf giant, another type of giant, a buccaneer, a big-ass fishman, an ancient giant, you know, if it's really massive. So it could have been worn by somebody like Oars, for example. Oars appears to have died from being frozen at some point, suffered a lot of frostbite, what Chopper says. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. Like, why hold on to that hat? You know, maybe, who knows? I mean, and then there's like this kind of like newer implication that the straw, like the woven straw of the straw hat, could hold like an enormous like power of hockey. I don't know how I feel about that, right? I kind of could see like the straw hat ultimately like needs to be led all the way back to the One Piece itself and like returned to the original owner. Isa, thank you for the congrats on the subs, by the way. The jealous sex? What is that? But yeah, I mean, I think I'm curious too, like how far back Emu really goes as well. Oh, the jealous ex. Ah. Yeah. Yeah, there is definitely some like envy, right? like the relationship between Emu and Joy Boy. And that kind of like end of Egghead where we see like Emu react to Joy Boy's hockey. That was like very interesting. It's just for a second too, but it really like it was kind of like it was like opening up a scar. Yeah, the newest Nightmare panel looks like the Mythid Wild Hunt usually led by Odin. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That's a good point, and I think that's going to become more important in the next couple chapters as well. And yeah, I definitely think Emu, like Nerona, like, and ultimately like the current Emu, like desired Lily probably romantically, but Lily, I'm not gonna. I don't have any evidence for Lily and Joy Boy being like. I think they were probably just really close friends and, essentially family, similar to Luffy and Vivi. And I think that like that betrayal of Lily made Emu really kind of like hate the people that are inheriting Joy Boy's will. Am I sure that that giant frozen hat is not Joy Boy's? I mean, I'm not sure, but I mean, I feel pretty confident about it, but just based off of like the small amount that we have seen Joy Boy, that Joy Boy pretty much looks the same as Luffy. And unless Emu is actually super tiny, I think that implies that that owner of the Straw Hat was... I mean, there's definitely at least two different Straw Hats, and I think that Luffy has Joy Boy's former Straw Hat, and I think that that Straw Hat that we see in Mary Joie was something that somebody made for somebody that ultimately carried on Joy Boy's will. And so like somebody like Oars, for example, if the hat would fit somebody like Oars is an ancient giant that is famous from and assumedly died 500 years ago from the current story. The Void Century ended 800 years ago, but giants live hundreds and hundreds of years. Who knows if ancient giants lived even longer, but that can kind of put Oars pretty close to the Void Century from like the start of Oars' life. So, and then there's also like the whole part where Oars Jr., who dies during Marineford, was gifted and handmade and Ace handmade a straw hat for Oars Jr. to protect Oars Jr. from the sun, and it was Oars Jr.'s treasure, right? How big is the empty throne? It's an interesting question. It is big, right? It's pretty big. But it's not very wide either. So that's kind of like a confusing part of it. And we also don't know who built the empty throne. Like there's a strong possibility that it existed before the Celestial Dragons had it. Like the throne itself, and the swords were only added when Emu had it. So there could be some relation to like the Long Arm tribe and stuff like that. That could make the shape not really be kind of hard to like determine its importance. Ace plus Oars was in retrospect an obvious parallel to the Emmet and Joy Boy. Yes. 100% agree. And Ace and Oars Jr. ended up being too early. Agreed. Yeah, there's that whole theme, that recurring element in all of this about um, the right time, right? Like that is it. That's like a tough part to kind of figure out. Like the place of a lot of this stuff is that it is super strongly implied that Luffy, as the kind of like inheritor of Joy Boy's will, is the first person that inherited the will that's doing it at the right time. And what does the right time mean? Maybe it's something to do with Ragnarok. Maybe it's something to do with like a polar shift of the world of One Piece. It's tough to say. I have heard a Japanese theory of like a polar shift theory that was quite interesting and had a lot to and put a lot of evidence from Skypiea and Jaya and stuff with the birds that always face west, I think. Yeah. At Toy Boy. Yeah, that whole idea is funny. I definitely see what people are talking about when they joke about that. And that's like, I guess that's another interesting thing too, is like how do you actually make everybody not remember stuff from the Void Century, right? Because it's really basically impossible to just like erase all like the textual history. Like, especially since you'd have to do it like pretty close to all at once, and that the poneglyphs only have persisted because they're indestructible by all accounts. But like the ways that we know people can forget everything are, well, okay, we have a couple ways, right? There's like what Vegapunk does with the Void Fortnite, where he like literally like uses science to erase his memory. And we know that the world of the Void Century was even more scientifically advanced than Egghead Island. So like it's definitely possible that they created some type of like memory wiping thing to like ultimately like carry on the will or like reset the world or something. I don't know. And then there's Sugar's Devil Fruit and Dressrosa, where, you know, you can turn everybody into something else, and nobody can like remember them, right? So if people of the Void Century were, just for example, turned into toys, then nobody could remember them like no matter what, right? Because we're dealing with like some type of magic. Yeah, like Total Recall, exactly. And, you know, we know Oda is a big fan of science fiction and a big fan of movies, so... Is that just a dark shadow? Okay. So, yeah, The Void Century is very complicated, right? I guess, like, if I told my version of the Void Century, it goes something like... some people found the technology that had been buried from like the first world, right? The power of the sun or something, some type of true ancient energy, and it's available everywhere, at least in the area of the ancient kingdom, which is said to be immense by Clover. And Joy Boy himself was born there, right? And what we know about Joy Boy is that they had a straw hat, and that they ultimately decided to leave the ancient kingdom and we know that because they became a pirate. So, why would Joy Boy leave if he's in this super powerful, like crazy, awesome kingdom? Well, maybe he just wants to go see the world. And then Joy Boy leaves to see the world and is brandished as a pirate, and essentially gives up the citizenship for the ancient kingdom, goes out and sees the world, and sees all the kind of suffering and pain that exists in the world, and maybe that pain is kind of like rooted in what the ancient kingdom is doing to progress their science or progress their own power and wealth, whatever. We've seen this endlessly in real life, so it doesn't seem like that big of a stretch for it to be in the Void Century story, right? And then Joy Boy makes friends with these kingdoms and ultimately is able to kind of make them more powerful by changing them. Especially, I've had the idea too that the ancient kingdom achieved their level of technology and power by stealing these other kingdoms' technologies and taking them back to the ancient kingdom for themselves. At which point, like, Joy Boy's promise to these places could be like to return what was stolen from them. This is something that we see in a bunch of arcs. One of the most important examples I would say is the Alabasta arc, when Crocodile steals the kingdom, and Luffy makes a big point about that, of returning what was stolen. So what if Joy Boy was like, I'm going to get this technology back to you, and we're going to destroy the world so that everybody can live with access to this endless energy equally, instead of being stolen and hoarded for selfish purposes. And then he teams up with his friend Lily, who is one of the leaders of the alliance of the 20 kingdoms that go on to make the world government. They defeat the ancient kingdom, and then that kind of like dark malice within Imu betrays Joy Boy, betrays Lily, and consolidates their power and kind of steals everything, right? But Joy Boy managed to kind of hide that technology and not let Imu or the future Celestial Dragons have a total victory, and that Joy Boy still has a promise to return all of that to the world. That's kind of how I see it, right? Now, is there like a crazy amount of evidence to support that? No, because we just haven't got an actual Void Century flashback, but I think of the points that I've put together, like, I think there's a good amount of evidence for that, for what we know about Joy Boy and what we know about the Ancient Kingdom and what we know about the Alliance. And in real world history, a lot of places try to protect their technology to selfishly keep it for themselves, right? Yeah, the magic explanation, history being written by the victors, yeah. I agree with that being possible too. What if it was to avoid this century to end the pandemic? The nuclear power from like that energy, the sun, causing a radiation and mutation, and basically an EMP knocking out all technology. That would be crazy. Definitely possible. We kind of have to learn more about the true nature of this ancient energy to really concretely go into that. My take is that piracy is meant to represent how meeting people in places makes you empathetic to others, but powers that be benefit from you not developing the empathy. I 100% agree with that, Kirby, and that's like a big reason why the world has been shaped this way. Keeps people isolated, keeps people miserable, unable to kind of like truly dream type of stuff, you know. Can EMPs erase memories? I know that the brain runs on electricity or some type of energy. It has a, you know, like there's like the electrons and stuff in there. I mean, in the real world, I don't think it can erase memories, but One Piece is not the real world, and the ancient energy in One Piece is not the same as like solar energy or nuclear energy as well. So, I mean, I think it's possible. I definitely think it's possible. A heat stroke can cause brain damage. That's funny. So Joy Boy broke the taboo, met people, was super empathetic like Luffy is, and the corrupted ancient kingdom brandished him a criminal because he exposed the hypocrisy. Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Pretty much the gist. And Joy Boy and the Alliance, they would need to align themselves like a pirate crew to be able to defeat like a level of power and technology like that. And then the other part that you see a lot of the times in One Piece, and a lot of pirates tell the Straw Hats and other pirates, like, pirates always betray each other. And this alliance between the 20 Kingdoms and Joy Boy was essentially like a pirate crew put together, right? And so there's kind of like a like the origin of that idea that pirates always are willing to betray each other, or will always inevitably betray each other, can kind of be traced back to the first pirate being betrayed, right? That certainly makes sense to me. Yeah, I guess like the Will of Dreams is here is saying, I think the One Piece energy / Haki spirals are electromagnetic in some way. Conqueror's Haki is an EMP burst to knock people out. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I actually have thought too about making a video and just trying to learn what Haki is exactly, because we know it's tied to people's will and stuff, but like, what is it exactly? And I could see Haki being kind of tied into this ancient energy a bit as well. Being called a criminal or a drag of society can definitely make you associate with outcasts whenever you need help, as well as dangerous people. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Zanzi. How these kind of outcasts in society, they are isolated by being kind of labeled like that, but they also can kind of use that label to create an accepting group themselves. And yeah, that is definitely interesting. Like, the whole idea of a pirate in One Piece is endlessly fascinating. Like, the whole spectrum of them. Well, guys, we're pushing about 3 o'clock on my time here. I'm feeling a bit tired and kind of want to go get some dinner and stuff soon and hang out with my wife and all that kind of stuff and relax. One of the rare days I don't have my kids here. They're enjoying time with their grandparents. But I've had a blast here streaming. Again, like, I hit 1,000 subscribers today. Like, never thought that would happen, really, but here we are. And I really, truly thank every single one of you guys for being any part of this channel, or for watching the stuff that I spend a lot of time making and thinking about. And yeah, I mean, I've definitely, I started out One Piece, my first video, it's going to be gone. Like, it's in the shadow realm. Somebody's going to have to make me lose a bet to bring that back up for people to see. But the way One Piece worked, the way that, like, making One Piece content on YouTube turned out a lot differently than I ever expected. And I've come to realize that, like, nobody has to watch what I make. And so I really, truly appreciate everybody that does take the time to watch stuff that I make. And there's a lot of people here and people that aren't here that don't really watch live streams, that they watch whatever I make, regardless of how particularly successful it is. And that those people have been growing, I feel like, with every single video I put out, and I, you know, appreciate those diehards, and I appreciate every new person that has watched my videos and stuff. It's the comments and stuff on the videos really, really like means a lot to me. And if I'm not able to reply to every single comment one day, which kind of hopefully I won't be able to, I hope to at least connect with the thoughtful comments. I hope to connect with people that show up for the live streams, because that's kind of easy to interact with. And look, I didn't even do anything in this live stream besides just talk to chat, and that was a blast. And I think I learned a lot, and hopefully you guys learned more about One Piece, and at least how I see it. Yay, Grandparents House. Congrats on your 1,000 subs. My literature and text and themes, like analysis and angles, are fascinating. Thank you, Kirby. Hurrah for all those useless humanities degrees. You know what? Like, my useless humanity degree that costs way too much money. You know, it's helped me really enjoy One Piece deeper than I probably would have ever enjoyed it, and so I appreciate it for that. And yeah. See you guys.